like to use is the National Geographic Guide. I really like this one because there are tabs on the pages that help me find the different sections of different categories of birds. And on the back here we have a nice little cheat sheet that helps me figure out which page I should go to. So this is just one example of the guide I like to use. There's all different kinds of field guides out there. Another common one is the Sibley Field Guide or the Peterson Field Guide. And there's also a lot of apps like the Merlin Bird app that can help you ID some bird species as well. And if you have binoculars, you can use those, but if you don't have binoculars, you don't necessarily need them either. So let's take a look at the feeders. We're at the bird feeder station at the Bernard property, and they have bird feeders all over their property. And this one, it's a little bit windy today, so it may be a little bit hard to hear.
Talk as loud as you can, Jess.
Okay. And so we'll try to keep you guys out of the wind so you can hear everything okay. So if you take a look at the bird feeders, there's not a ton of stuff right now just because of the wind, but I do see over here on this little yellow feeder, if you can see that, the little yellow feeder on the right hand side, there is a bird, a bright yellow bird on the yellow feeder. You can see he's bright yellow, he has black wings, he has black markings on his eyes. I like to say these field markings out loud as I'm looking at some of these birds, and then that will help me remember what they look like when I go back to look at my field guide. So this yellow bird that we're looking at, that's an American goldfinch. So there's quite a few around here this morning on these bird feeders. They're really bright yellow, the males are, and then some of the females, they're a little bit more of a dull yellow. I see a couple females on the same bird feeder, and sometimes they even look a little bit green because they're kind of a grayish yellow. Let's see, what else do we see? I see one bird over here that looks like he's wearing a black hat, and his eyes kind of have like a white stripe. Looks like he's wearing a black hat and his wings are gray. That's another really common one. That's a black-capped chickadee. One thing that a lot of birders like to do is make a list. So I have an old list here that I made when I was living in Minnesota, and it's still in my bird guide list. Green Isle Farm bird list. So I like to keep lists near some of my windows at home. I'll just keep a list for my kitchen window, a list for my living room window. There's a lot of cool things coming right now because we're during the migration season. Everything is coming north. All of the birds are migrating north, so we're seeing a lot of birds that are just starting to either find their territories or find their mates. And in the springtime, they're always very active. They're trying to find mates, and you can hear them calling back and forth. So springtime is a really great time to go birding. So I would like to introduce Barbara and Gary Bernard. They'll be out here in a little bit. They're going to tell us a little bit about how they have placed things on their property to help the birds feel more comfortable about coming out to their feeding station. So Barbara's going to show you guys a little bit about what they're doing here.
Hi, I'm Barbara Bernard. My husband and I, Gary, have lived here for 30 years, and we've been managing the property for all wildlife, but I would say particularly for birds. We have 70 acres. We have a couple of ponds. We have a lot of native pollinator prairie and lots and lots and lots of native shrubs and trees. Gary's probably planted well over 1,000 native shrubs and trees for the birds and the wildlife on the property. We do have the property in a conservation easement with Joe Davies Conservation Foundation now too, which has been a really good positive experience for us, and a great way to protect this land that we've done so much on in perpetuity for the wildlife. So if you come around and look at some of the areas here that we have, this is a kind of a fancy setup. Not everybody needs this much bird feeder activity, but we like it. But there's a couple of things to kind of keep in mind as you set up a bird feeder. And one is your backyard layout. Some of the things that you can do are so important for bringing birds in and also providing food and nesting cover for birds. And that is planting native trees and shrubs just in your backyard. So instead of things that are imported from other countries or cultivars, finding out what's native in our area and planting those things, they're going to provide more food, better shelter, and probably live better in your yard than some of the other trees and shrubs that are available in nurseries. So what we've done here is we've planted a variety of layers of vegetation. If you look, there's evergreen trees that are tall in the background. That's going to provide cover for the birds in the wintertime when the deciduous trees, the maples and oaks, don't have their leaves. They're just now leafing out now. You can see those also as the height in the background. And then in front of those, there's a layer of taller kind of shrubbery. And those again are all native shrubs. They will have berries on them. They will leaf out and provide cover. And they're a great place for the birds to rest, be safe, and nest when it's time for the breeding season to come around. And then underneath, nothing's really coming out yet, but we have some native wildflowers and grasses that will also be coming out. The ground feeding birds, and you can see some right now, are kind of in and about there. That's where they would feed, so we put seed on the ground for them. And there's also, it's a shelter area for the birds that prefer the lower levels. As far as the feeders go, we've got a lot going on here. We've got a variety of seeds for the birds. We have thistle feeders for the finches. We have black oil seed here in the bigger feeders for the cardinals and the blue jays and all of the woodpeckers. We've got suet available in multiple places. You can buy blocks of suet just about anywhere that has bird feeding supplies and little holders for it. And that's going to bring in especially the woodpeckers, the nuthatches, some of the fun little birds that are really easy to identify and particularly beautiful and fun to watch. You don't need all this. Basically, you could have a really nice bird feeding station in a backyard with a simple bird feeder like this that's got black oil sunflower seed in it, a thistle feeder to bring in your finches, and a suet feeder to bring in your woodpeckers. And you're going to get a lot of birds just with those feeders. The other thing that's nice to provide is water for the birds. We are fortunate to have 2 ponds, and we have a creek in the front of our yard. But we also have a bird bath, and we use a heated bird bath in the wintertime because the birds do need a source of water too. And that will bring a lot of birds in because especially birds in urban areas often have a hard time finding a water source in the wintertime. So the other thing we've got too, which you can't see, but the mowed areas out there are all native prairie grasses and pollinator species. And if you have a little bit bigger yard, even a small patch of native grasses and flowers for birds will go a long ways towards providing food and habitat for them as well. So there's just a ton of things that you can do in your backyard to help the birds and to bring them in and to provide nesting and feeding stations for them. So
Barbara, can you tell us a little bit about, so at the Valley of Eden Bird Sanctuary, which is a free preserve open to the public, it's recently gained the designation of an important bird area through the Audubon Society. Can you tell us a little bit about what an IBA is, an important bird area is, and why it matters?
Sure. So an IBA, or it's called an important bird area, is a global designation that's overseen by BirdLife International and Audubon that identifies and conserves specific areas of essential habitat for bird species, particularly species that are in need of conservation. And for the Valley of Eden in particular, it has 100 acres of grassland out there, and grassland in the Midwest, because of development in agriculture, has become more and more hard to find for the birds. And so this area of grassland on the Valley of Eden Sanctuary is providing habitat to several species of birds that are designated in great need of concern, threatened birds, including a Henslow sparrow, which is a neat little sparrow bird that's very unusual to find now, bobolinks, which are an iconic bird of the grasslands and prairies in this area before we began to develop and farm everything. Eastern meadowlarks, and there's also a lot of woodland out there that has a lot of woodland bird species too. But basically the important bird area designation for that sanctuary was given to us by Audubon because of the Henslow sparrows and the other grassland species that are there, because that is such an unusual and essential habitat now in the Midwest. So it's a neat place to go out and see those birds. Best time to see them would late May through mid-July, to go out and walk in the mowed trails on the grassland and take your binoculars, and you should be able to see all of those species and lots more too. So great place to go to walk around and bird.
And that's the Valley of Eden Bird Sanctuary is just southwest of Stockton, Illinois, off let's see, Rush Creek Road. And again, that's open to the public and free. So if anybody has any questions about birding or backyard birding at this time, we're going to go ahead and answer some of your questions. Okay, so if you have questions later on, you can go ahead and put your questions in the comments section. We are going to be raffling off a bird ID or bird guide that was donated to us, and we can head over here. I'll show you the bird guide. This is the Birds of Illinois book. This was donated from the Feathered Nest. It's a bird store in downtown Galena. This is a great little bird guide for beginners. It's easy to find the birds that you're looking for in this book because everything is color coded. If you're looking for a little brown bird, you can turn to the brown section. If you're looking for a yellow bird, you can turn to the yellow section. So it's a great little bird guide. And to enter into this raffle contest, all you need to do is comment or share this Facebook Live video. And next week, next Thursday at 10 a.m., we'll announce the winners at the next Facebook Live event.
We do have a question from Maureen Bardust, who asks, are you seeing migrating birds now?
We are seeing a lot of migrating birds right now. And Barbara was just telling me a little bit ago that she's even seeing the towhees. The towhees are here, which are more common in the summer. So right now, the spring migration goes from about second week of March, early March, until beginning of June, or maybe mid-May. So right now is a great time to come and see birds. So the spring migration is going on, so it's very active out here.
Okay, Emily asks, is there a way to look up a bird by their call?
Oh, sure, by their call. So, how I like to do this is I use my Merlin bird app, and my bird app has different calls on this, and I will listen to the bird that I'm hearing, and I'll try to match it with the bird sound that I'm selecting on my Merlin app. So that's one way that I like to do it. Another way that you can do it is you can take a recording of your bird call that you're hearing, whether you're in the woods or prairie or wherever, and you can post it to iNaturalist. iNat is a citizen science platform where there are people that will respond to your observations, and they will help you ID your species. And birds are the number one of living things that are are ID'd on iNaturalist. Well, they're the quickest to be ID'd, I think, because birders just love IDing birds. So if you want help finding what bird calls and identifying those, iNaturalist, I think, is a great way to do that, just because there's a real person that's listening to the recording and commenting. And there's 2 or 3 people often that will listen to these recordings and comment and help you identify what bird it is.
Okay, we have another question from Debbie, who's asking, are goldfinches native to Joe Davis County?
Oh, yes, they are. They are, yes. They're a really very cool bright yellow bird. They're really beautiful. They are native to Joe Davis County. Yep.
And Karen is asking, does anyone know why there were so many Orioles last year?
Oh, do you know this?
Only that it was a pretty good fruiting year for the berry trees, which is one of the things. They're a frugivore or a fruit-eating bird. In addition to insects and other things, that's what they eat during the summertime. But I don't think anybody really figured that out. It was an amazing amount of Orioles, which is a wonderful thing. They're a bird that has decreased probably 50 or 60% since the 1960s. And so it's always good to see a surge in population in many of those birds, which have had the same decline over the last 50 years or so. Hopefully it'll be like that this year too.
Yeah. Great questions, everybody. So if you have more questions, feel free to write them in that comment section down there. And remember, if you comment in that comment section, or if you share this video, then you will be entered into the drawing to win the Birds of Illinois field guide, donated by the Feathered Nest in Galena.
And just back to the question about how to ID bird calls, one of the best ways would be to join a bird group. And kids are always welcome, and JDCF, Joe Davies Conservation Foundation, has a Thursday birding group. And that way you can go out with people that know the bird calls, and as you hear them, they can tell you what it is and reinforce it over and over and over again when you're out birding with them until you know those easy calls and those calls that we hear most commonly. So always a good idea to go out with other birders.
Yes, that's the best way to do it.
Okay, we have a few more questions coming in. Paul is asking, speaking of Orioles, when do they usually get here?
Probably in the next 2 weeks, we'll start to see both the Orchard Oriole and the Baltimore Oriole. So easily by the 3rd week of May, the 3rd week of April, and certainly by the last week of April. Some of it's weather dependent. Nobody's going to migrate when there's a north wind howling like today, so that does hold things up a little bit. They will move north as the weather, the wind, and the feeding conditions get better for them. So over the next few weeks, we'll start to see that. And people like to put out jelly and oranges and things like that to attract them. So that's as long as they don't become dependent, you don't do that, constantly, and you keep them very clean, and the jelly especially gets changed every day. That's a good way to bring them into your yard so that you get a good look at them.
Carl's asking, when is a good time to put Oriole feeders out?
You can wait until you see your first Oriole. Otherwise, I think I would be putting them out about the 3rd week of April, depending on the weather, as long as it's been warm and the migrating birds seem to be arriving.
So that answers Janet's question of when do Orioles appear in the Galena area.
Again, probably about the 3rd week of April, I would guess.
Great. So I just wanted to show everybody, this is the Valley of Eden Bird Sanctuary Visitor Guide. Right now we have taken out all of these pamphlets from the kiosk just to prevent people from touching everything that's open to the public. So, but eventually we will have these pamphlets out, and I think that you can even find them on our website. Okay, yep, these are on our website as well. So this is just a simple Valley of Eden bird guide. It has a map of the preserve and some great information about the bird sanctuary, and just a little bit about the history and some of the common birds. Here's the Oriole that everybody's interested in. This is the bobolink. This is the place to go to see bobolinks. It's the Valley of Eden Bird Sanctuary. Lots of bobolinks. So and the Valley of Eden Bird Sanctuary also has a friends group, which Barbara is part of. And if you're interested in joining the Valley of Eden Bird Sanctuary friends group, you can email info@jdcf.org, and you can request to be put on the email list there. This way you can kind of stay up to date on what's going on out at the bird sanctuary. We do go on birding tours around the bird sanctuary. We have a Birding 101 course scheduled for June, but who knows what everything's gonna look like in June.
All right, so Jeffrey is asking that question: is the Thursday birding group still meeting during the virus?
That's a good question. So the Thursday birding group, they are not gathering. Sometimes they will all go to a preserve, but they'll stay in their own vehicles. For example, Green Island is a great place that you can visit, and there's a lot of migratory waterfowl there right now, and it's a great place to drive around the wetland areas there, and you can stay in your own vehicle. So some of the Thursday birding folks, they still get together and they kind of communicate amongst each other. If you would like to be put on the Thursday birding list, you can email us again at the info@jdcf.org, and we can add your email to that list as well, just to kind of stay up to date about when and where they're going.
Okay, Kay is asking, when should hummingbird feeders be put out?
Again, they usually will arrive surprisingly early, usually by the 3rd or 4th week of April. People often ask what they eat besides bird feeders, hummingbird feeders during that time. And what's interesting is one of our woodpeckers, our native woodpeckers, the yellow-bellied sapsucker, comes around in real early spring and drills holes in the trees, little lines of holes, if Deb's able to kind of zoom in on those, and sap drips out of those. And the hummingbirds that come early before there are a lot of flowers to eat, and also before the insects are out, the hummingbirds actually survive on the sap dripping out of the sapsucker holes. So get your feeders out probably by about the 3rd or 4th week of April, but watch for the birds. They sometimes are surprisingly early and get here even a little bit before that. And again, that's a really good species to do plantings for. Things like cardinal shrub, Weigelias, salvia flowers. There's just a variety of things that you can plant both in flower form and also in shrubs that will help to feed the hummingbirds and just bring them flocking into your yard.
Okay, Carl is asking, what is the best way to attract bluebirds?
Okay, well, bluebirds need to have a cavity nesting situation, and so we have there's a lot of bluebird houses that are available at bird supply places or online. They want a bluebird house, and so that helps. They eat mostly insects, some fruit, but mostly insects. So having, again, the kind of yard that's going to promote having worms and bugs and stuff living in the backyard will help bring them in as well. But mostly providing a place for them to nest in a bluebird house. I'm not sure that there is some down there on the property. I don't know if Deb can get that far of a pan, but that's probably their most critical thing, would be to have a cavity to nest in, or a nesting house.
Great. Okay, well, thank you guys for joining us today. And remember, you can always share this video. We're going to have it posted on our Facebook page. If you have questions, enter them into the comments section, and you can be entered into the raffle to win the Birds of Illinois book donated by the Feathered Nest store in Galena. So thanks again for staying tuned with the Backyard Birding Facebook Live event. Remember to tune in next Thursday morning at 10 a.m. and we will be at the Rapello Land and Water Reserve to learn about